Top 7 State Quarter Dollars Worth Big Money. Welcome to Numismatic Vault Extra. Today, we're exploring some of the most valuable top 7 state quarter dollar coins from the United States of America, United States. In this video, we'll take a close look at their current market values, highlight well-known era coins, and explain the specific conditions that make certain state quarters extremely rare. This includes silver issues, unique color shades, and special features that have become major players in the coin collector and investor world. These rare treasures are not just pieces of history. They are also some of the most valuable coins collectors are actively hunting today. So, if you're a coin enthusiast, an investor, or someone who appreciates the beauty and significance of American currency, backhand index pointing right, this video is for you. Let's get started with the first coin. Magnifying glass tilted left money bag. The story of the 1999 D state quarter begins at the very moment America decided to rewrite the language of its everyday money. For decades, coins had remained visually unchanged, familiar to the point of invisibility. Then, quietly, a new idea was born. A coin that would carry identity, memory, and place. The year 1999 was not ancient history, yet it marked a turning point. The nation stood at the edge of a new millennium, filled with optimism and uncertainty at the same time. Technology was accelerating, traditions were shifting, and the world felt like it was holding its breath. Into this moment came the State Quarters program, not as decoration, but as a statement. For the first time, everyday money would tell stories, not of leaders or monuments alone, but of individual states, cultures, and identities woven into one nation. The 1999 D quarter carries the D mint mark of Denver, a mint known for producing coins under immense demand. Denver's presses worked relentlessly, feeding a nationwide hunger for something new, something symbolic, something people wanted to save instead of spend. Though millions were produced, the meaning of the coin was not in its quantity, but in its timing. Coins struck at moments of transition often carry more historical weight than those born during calm continuity. Unlike older silver coins, the 1999 D state quarter was clad, modern, and practical. Yet history teaches us that material alone does not define importance. Meaning does. Timing does. Survival does. This quarter entered circulation at a time when people suddenly began looking at coins again. Children collected them, families saved them, and conversations formed around pocket change, something that had not happened for generations. But fascination fades. What people save briefly, they often abandon later. Collections are broken, coins are spent, jars are emptied. Time begins its quiet work of separation. The idea that a modern coin could become powerful seems impossible to many. Yet history repeatedly proves that value often forms where expectation is lowest. The designs of the 1999 state quarters captured pride, geography, and memory. Each coin became a small metal document, recording how a state wished to be remembered at the turn of a century. The Denver Mint did not slow down for perfection. Speed mattered. Demand mattered. Under those conditions, subtle variations, overlooked details, and survival stories quietly took shape. Coins that survive untouched through decades of circulation hold something rare, not because they were scarce at birth, but because they resisted disappearance. The late 1990s were years of movement. People traveled more, spent more, and thought less about physical money as digital systems began to rise. Coins became background noise. That neglect is powerful. When people stop paying attention, time begins selecting what will remain meaningful later. The belief that a single coin could change a fortune overnight is often exaggerated, but the emotional truth behind it comes from real history. Unexpected objects have rewritten lives before. The 1999 D state quarter represents the first step of a massive national experiment. First steps always matter more than the ones that follow. Collectors often look backward thousands of years, forgetting that future rarity is born in the present. Every ancient treasure was once new. Condition becomes the silent judge. A coin that avoided scratches, corrosion, and careless handling carries preserved time, and preserved time is powerful. The greatest mistake people make with coins like this is assuming they will always be common. History punishes that assumption again and again. Money reflects how a nation sees itself. In 1999, America chose diversity, unity, and identity. That choice was stamped into everyday metal. As years pass, fewer untouched examples remain. Coins are lost, damaged, or discarded. The population shrinks without notice. The 1999 D-state quarter does not shout its importance. It waits. That patience mirrors the lesson of collecting itself. Those who rush often lose. Those who observe quietly sometimes realize they were standing at the beginning of a story, not the end. Modern coins feel too familiar to inspire respect. That familiarity is their camouflage. Time does not care about opinions. It removes, erases, and forgets without apology. When future generations look back, the first state quarters will not feel modern anymore. They will feel historical. The 1999 D quarter stands at the doorway between old physical money and a digital future no one fully understood at the time. It represents a nation choosing to remember itself differently. And so this quarter rests quietly in collections, drawers, and forgotten containers, made of ordinary metal, born in an extraordinary moment, carrying the quiet possibility that history always hides value where most people stop looking, waiting patiently for someone wise enough to understand what they are holding next up. The story of the 1999 P-State Quarter begins at a moment when America looked both backward and forward at the same time. The nation was approaching a new millennium, and there was a quiet understanding that the future would not look like the past. In that atmosphere of reflection and anticipation, a new kind of coin entered circulation. For decades, American coins had barely changed. They had become so familiar that people no longer noticed them. Then suddenly, everyday money was asked to carry memory, identity, and history again, stamped directly into metal that passed through millions of hands. The year 1999 was not ancient, but it was symbolic. It marked a turning point, a closing of one century and the opening of another. Coins struck during such moments often carry more meaning than people realize at the time. This particular quarter bears a P mint mark, showing it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia is not just a mint, it is the birthplace of American coinage itself. Every coin from this mint carries the weight of beginnings. The presence of the date, 1788, on the design reaches far deeper than the coin's modern appearance suggests. That year represents a foundational moment in American statehood, a reminder of when ideas of unity, law, and identity were still fragile and new. When this quarter was released, it was not meant to feel old. It was meant to feel fresh, educational, and modern. Yet history has a way of aging things faster than expected. Millions of these quarters were produced, and they entered circulation during a time of speed. Life was fast, spending was fast, and people rarely paused to consider the meaning of the metal in their pockets. Children collected them with excitement, families filled folders and books, and for a brief moment, coins mattered again. But enthusiasm fades, and when it does, objects are often released back into the world without protection. Coins that survive untouched beyond that phase become something different. They stop being everyday money and start becoming witnesses. Unlike older coins made of precious metal, this quarter was created for function, not display. Yet history teaches us that importance is not decided by material alone, but by story, timing, and survival. The designs of the state quarters were intentional. They were meant to preserve how a state wished to be remembered at a specific moment in time. Once struck, that memory could never be changed. The Philadelphia Mint produced these coins with precision and speed. Under such conditions, perfection was not the goal, consistency was. And where consistency rules, subtle differences quietly emerge. Most of these quarters lived hard lives. They were scratched, stacked, scraped, and forgotten. A coin that avoided that fate holds preserved time. People often believe that only very old coins can be meaningful. They forget that every ancient coin was once new, dismissed as ordinary by those who first held it. The belief that a single coin could change a fortune overnight is often exaggerated, but the emotional truth behind it is real. History is full of moments when overlooked objects gain sudden attention decades later. The 1788 on this quarter anchors it to something far older than 1999. It ties modern America to its early identity, when the nation was still deciding who it would become. Coins like this act as bridges between eras. They connect founding ideals with modern hands, reminding us that history does not live only in books. As digital transactions grew, physical money slowly lost attention. Coins became background noise, and background noise is where history likes to hide. Condition quietly becomes destiny. A coin that remains clean, undamaged, and original carries a different future than one worn down by use. The greatest mistake people make with modern coins is assuming they will always be common. Time has proven that assumption wrong again and again. Collectors of the future will not see 1999 the way we do today. They will see it as the beginning of something, the first chapter of a national experiment in storytelling through money. The 1999 P-State quarter represents that first step. First steps are always remembered longer than the steps that follow. This coin does not demand attention. It waits. Waiting is its strength. Those who rush past history often miss it. Those who pause sometimes discover meaning where others saw nothing. The quarter reflects how America chose to remember itself at the edge of a new age. Proud of its beginnings, confident in its diversity, and hopeful about its future. As years pass, fewer untouched examples remain. Loss, damage, and neglect quietly reduce the number without announcement. Modern coins feel too familiar to inspire respect, and that familiarity becomes their camouflage. Time does not announce when it is creating rarity. It simply moves forward. One day, the first state quarters will no longer feel modern at all. They will feel like artifacts of a turning point. And so the 1999 P-State quarter bearing 1788 rests quietly in collections, drawers, and forgotten places, made of ordinary metal, born in an extraordinary moment, carrying the quiet reminder that history often hides its power inside the most familiar objects, waiting patiently for someone wise enough to recognize the story they hold. Next up, the story of the 2001 D-State quarter begins in a nation that was unknowingly standing at the edge of change. America had entered a new century with confidence, speed, and ambition, yet beneath that surface, history was quietly repeating its oldest pattern. Transformation arrives when people least expect it. By 2001, the state quarter program was no longer a novelty. What began as excitement had become routine. Coins once eagerly saved were now casually spent, and familiarity once again began to erase attention. This quarter carries the D mint mark of Denver, a mint shaped by motion, pressure, and scale. Denver's presses were built for volume, and volume often hides the most interesting survival stories. The presence of 1789 on the design reaches far beyond the modern year stamped beside it. That date echoes the early formation of American governance, when the nation was still defining law, balance, and identity. Coins that carry two eras within them, a modern face and a historic memory, act like bridges. They allow the past to pass through the present without words. The year 2001 feels recent, yet history does not measure time emotionally. It measures it by change, and change was already accelerating. This quarter entered circulation at a moment when physical money was slowly losing importance. Cards, screens, and digital systems were beginning to replace touch and weight. When people stop noticing coins, those coins begin their quiet test. Survival becomes accidental rather than intentional. Millions of 2001 D quarters were produced, and most were treated without care. They rattled through machines, slid across counters, and disappeared into the noise of everyday life. A coin that survives untouched through such a period carries something rare, not rarity of production, but rarity of preservation. Unlike older coins, this quarter was not made of silver. Yet history has proven again and again that metal alone does not decide destiny. Story does. Timing does. Condition does. The design tied to 1789 reminds us of a fragile beginning, when the nation was still an idea being tested rather than a certainty. Holding such a coin connects two moments of confidence: the confidence of early America and the confidence of a nation stepping into a new millennium. The Denver Mint did not pause to create keepsakes. It produced working money. That working nature is what exposes coins to loss, damage, and disappearance. Most examples of this quarter today show wear, scratches, and signs of life. A coin that avoided that fate has already separated itself from millions of others. People often laugh at the idea that a modern coin could matter. History laughs last. Every ancient treasure was once dismissed as ordinary. The belief that a coin could change a fortune overnight is often exaggerated, yet the emotion behind that belief comes from real moments when overlooked objects suddenly mattered. Collectors of the future will not see 2001 as we do today. They will see it as a threshold year, when the world shifted faster than people realized. The 1789 on the coin reminds us that nations rise through patience, structure, and time, not speed. Coins like this teach restraint. They reward those who wait rather than those who rush. Condition becomes destiny quietly. No announcement is made. Time simply removes what does not endure. The greatest mistake people make with coins like this is assuming abundance guarantees permanence. History never agrees. As years pass, fewer untouched examples remain. Loss happens invisibly. Damage happens casually. Rarity grows silently. The 2001 D-State Quarter does not demand belief. It demands observation. Those who ignore history repeat it. Those who notice it sometimes recognize meaning before others do. This quarter reflects how America chose to remember its origins while stepping forward into uncertainty. It carries confidence, memory, and transition in one small circle of metal. Modern coins feel too familiar to inspire respect, and that familiarity becomes their camouflage. Time does not explain itself. It simply moves on. One day, the first decades of the state quarter era will feel distant, not modern. And so the 2001 D-State Quarter bearing 1789 rests quietly in collections, drawers, and forgotten places, made of ordinary metal, born during extraordinary change, carrying the quiet reminder that history does not always shout its value. Sometimes it waits patiently for someone wise enough to recognize the moment they are holding. Next up, the story of the 2007 D-State Quarter begins long before the coin itself was ever struck. It begins in memory, in the idea that history does not disappear when years pass, but instead waits quietly to be retold in new forms. Sometimes, that form is a small circle of metal passed from hand to hand. The year 2007 felt modern, fast, and confident. America was deeply connected, constantly moving, and increasingly detached from physical money. Coins were no longer examined. They were used and forgotten. That forgetfulness is where history often hides its most interesting survivors. This quarter bears the D mint mark of Denver, a mint shaped by scale, motion, and relentless production. Denver coins are born in speed, not ceremony, and speed rarely leaves room for sentiment. That makes survival more meaningful. The presence of the date 1889 on the design reaches far beyond the coin's modern appearance. That year represents a moment of arrival, when identity became official and permanence replaced uncertainty. It marks the passage from territory to statehood, from idea to institution. Coins that carry two timelines within them become bridges. They allow the past to travel quietly through the present, unnoticed by most, understood by few. When this quarter entered circulation, the state quarter program was already familiar. What once felt exciting had become routine. People spent these coins without pause, assuming they would always exist in abundance. Millions were produced, yet production numbers do not protect objects from disappearance. Coins vanish through loss, damage, neglect, and indifference, forces more powerful than scarcity. This quarter was not struck in silver, yet history has never limited importance to precious metal alone. Value grows where story, survival, and timing intersect. The late 2000s were years of transition. Digital systems expanded rapidly, and physical money slowly lost its emotional presence. Coins became background noise in a world growing louder. When attention fades, time begins its quiet work. Coins that remain untouched through years of neglect separate themselves naturally from the rest. The design connected to 1889 is a reminder of beginnings that required patience, courage, and endurance. Those qualities do not fade simply because decades pass. Holding such a coin connects two moments of confidence: the confidence of a young state finding its place, and the confidence of a modern nation standing at the edge of change. The Denver Mint did not create this quarter to be remembered. It created it to circulate. That working life exposed the coin to wear, damage, and loss. Most examples today show scratches, dullness, and signs of ordinary life. A coin that avoided that fate has already taken a different path. People often dismiss modern coins as meaningless. History has never shared that opinion. Every ancient artifact was once dismissed as common. The idea that a single coin could change a fortune overnight is often overstated. Yet the belief itself comes from real moments when overlooked objects gained sudden attention decades later. Collectors of the future will not see 2007 as modern. They will see it as a turning point, a time when the physical world began yielding quietly to the digital one. The 1889 date anchors the coin to a time when progress moved slower and permanence mattered deeply. That contrast gives the quarter emotional depth. Coins like this reward patience rather than urgency. They are not about quick profit, but about long perspective. Condition becomes destiny silently. No announcement is made. Time simply chooses what remains untouched. The greatest mistake people make with coins like this is assuming abundance guarantees permanence. History repeatedly proves otherwise. As years pass, fewer untouched examples remain. Loss happens without witnesses. Damage happens casually. Rarity grows quietly. This quarter does not demand belief. It invites observation. Those who rush past history often miss it. Those who pause sometimes recognize significance before others do. The 2007 D-State Quarter reflects how America chose to remember its origins while continuing forward without looking back. It carries memory, transition, and identity in a single form. Modern coins feel too familiar to inspire respect, and that familiarity becomes their disguise. Time does not explain what it is doing. It simply moves forward. One day, the early state quarter years will feel distant, not modern. And so the 2007 D-State Quarter bearing 1889 rests quietly in collections, drawers, and forgotten places, made of ordinary metal, born in a time of quiet transition, carrying the reminder that history does not always reveal its value loudly. Sometimes it waits patiently for someone wise enough to understand the story they are holding. Next up, the story of the 2000 P-State Quarter begins at a rare crossroads in time, when one century closed and another opened. People spoke endlessly about the future, yet few noticed the small historical objects quietly moving through their hands every day. History often hides in plain sight, and in the year 2000, it hid inside pocket change. The turn of the millennium carried a strange energy. There was excitement, uncertainty, and a sense that something invisible had shifted. America stood confident, yet cautious, stepping forward while carrying the weight of its beginnings. This quarter carries the P mint mark of Philadelphia, the oldest and most symbolic mint in the United States. Philadelphia is where American coinage was born, where money first became a voice of independence rather than dependence. The presence of the date, 1788, on the design pulls the mind far beyond the year 2000. It points back to a foundational moment, when the idea of America was still fragile and untested, shaped by belief more than certainty. When a coin carries two timelines at once, it becomes more than currency. It becomes a bridge, allowing the past to travel quietly through the present without explanation. The State Quarter program was created to awaken memory. Each design carried identity, pride, and story. Yet the irony of everyday money is that meaning fades with repetition. By the year 2000, quarters were everywhere. They passed through vending machines, toll booths, and cash registers without pause. Familiarity erased curiosity. Millions of these quarters were struck, but history has never measured importance by production numbers alone. What matters is what survives unchanged when attention disappears. This coin entered circulation during a time when physical money was already losing emotional weight. Cards, screens, and digital systems were rising, quietly pushing metal aside. When people stopped noticing coins, those coins faced their greatest test. Survival becomes accidental rather than intentional. The 1788 date anchors the quarter to a moment when patience mattered more than speed. Foundations were laid carefully, knowing mistakes would echo for generations. Holding this coin connects two kinds of confidence: the confidence of early America believing in itself, and the confidence of a modern nation stepping into a future it could not fully see. The Philadelphia Mint did not create this quarter to be admired. It created it to circulate endlessly. That working life exposed the coin to wear, loss, and neglect. Most examples today show signs of ordinary life. Scratches, dullness, and softened edges tell stories of years spent unnoticed. A coin that avoided that fate already carries preserved time. People often dismiss modern coins as meaningless because they feel too familiar. History has never shared that opinion. Every ancient artifact was once new. Every legendary coin once passed through careless hands. The belief that a single coin could change a fortune overnight is often exaggerated, yet it is rooted in a deeper truth. Overlooked objects sometimes gain meaning long after they are ignored. Future collectors will not see the year 2000 as modern. They will see it as a threshold, a dividing line between physical tradition and digital life. The 1788 on this quarter reminds us that lasting systems are not built quickly. They are built with discipline, patience, and belief. Coins like this reward restraint rather than haste. They belong to those who understand that time is the real creator of value. Condition becomes destiny quietly. No announcement is made. Time simply removes what does not endure. The greatest mistake people make with coins like this is assuming abundance guarantees permanence. History has never agreed with that belief. As years pass, fewer untouched examples remain. Loss happens quietly. Damage happens casually. Rarity grows without warning. This quarter does not demand belief. It invites observation. Those who rush past history often miss it. Those who pause sometimes recognize meaning before others do. The 2000p state quarter reflects how America chose to remember its beginnings while stepping forward into uncertainty. It carries memory, transition, and identity within a single circle of metal. Modern coins feel too close to inspire respect, and that closeness becomes their camouflage. Time never explains itself. It simply moves forward and leaves meaning behind. One day, the early state quarter years will feel distant, not modern. And so the 2000p state quarter bearing 1788 rests quietly in collections, drawers, and forgotten places, made of ordinary metal, born at the edge of a new century, carrying the quiet reminder that history does not always announce its power. Sometimes it waits patiently for someone wise enough to understand what they are holding.